At 22 years old, Karol Józef Wojtyła knocked on the door at the bishop's palace in Kraków, Poland. The future Pope John Paul II asked to study for the priesthood. A year earlier, his father had died of a heart attack, his brother had died of scarlet fever, and his mother died during childbirth. At one point, the future saint wondered, why hasn't God taken me yet? Looking back on the incredible witness to holiness that the 264th pontiff was, it is clear that the Lord had much of the gospel to spread with his humble servant. As previously stated, John Paul II suffered many losses early in his life. In addition to his family members, he lost many friends due to the Nazi occupation of Poland. Karol Wojtyła's father saw the intellectual potential of his son, so he moved them to Kraków. Wojtyła attended college and was involved in drama, but as the drama of the Second World War unfolded, the university was forced to shut down. Bombs hit Kraków, and the two were forced to travel 120 miles by foot to escape the violence. When the Soviets mounted an invasion from the east, they had no choice but to return to their ransacked city. Miraculously, their home was still intact. Karol worked a difficult job at the quarry as his father convalesced. One day, after a long day at work, he went to bring medicine to his ailing dad and learned that he had passed away. "I'm all alone," he said. "I've already lost all the people I've loved." This moment could have been a moment of despair for him. It certainly was a moment of sadness. But the loneliness he felt did not have a negative effect on him. Instead, it fueled his holiness. He moved in with a family in Kraków who observed how he went to Mass daily and prayed almost constantly in his room. After a year of quarry work, he was transferred to a chemical plant where he spent the next 4 years working long hours. He would kneel in the factory and pray the Angelus. He worked for hundreds of night shifts in a row, followed by an early morning mass where Jesus gave him the strength to carry on. He took little rest. At one point, he observed a shift for a fellow co-worker whose wife had just given birth. Wojtyła made sure the man could be with his wife and child. When his father died, he began to seriously discern the priestly vocation. In the midst of the Nazi occupation of Poland, he attended the clandestine underground seminary in Kraków. Initially, he worked at the chemical plant while attending the seminary, but the situation grew more dangerous. One night, SS soldiers stormed through his house while he prayed in the basement. Eventually, Wojtyła and the other seminarians spent months on end in the bishop's palace as they continued their forbidden studies. When Allied forces finally pushed the Nazi army out of Poland, the Poles realized the horror that the war had imposed on their homeland. Millions were dead, buildings were damaged and leveled. The future pope and some of his fellow classmates took up the task of chopping up and carting away the frozen excrement that filled the theological seminary building. In 1946, at the age of 26, Karol was ordained a priest. Soon after this, he was sent to Rome for a couple of years to study philosophy and moral theology. Once he earned his doctorate, he came back to Poland, which had been occupied by Soviet forces and communist thought since the end of the war. Karol opposed communism. He didn't support it because it viewed people as a means to an end. He believed that there was a truth to the dignity of the human person, and he believed that if a government didn't respect this truth, inhumane living conditions and acts would be close behind. He spent the majority of the rest of his life promoting a message of divine mercy. A message that promoted the dignity of God's children. The message was there when he evangelized college students early on in his priesthood. His message was present as he became the first non-Italian pope in 455 years. It rang loud and clear when he helped topple the Berlin Wall. His message of dignity was on display when he taught us about how love, embedded in the Trinity, is present in our bodies and in our souls. If the question is asked, what do you do when all the people you have loved are gone? St. John Paul's life has the answer. Love more.